Hey, welcome back to the series. In this episode, we are going to see how to use .env library to externalize environment variables from the code. When you build the code, you deploy the code into multiple environments. When you deploy into multiple environments, you cannot use the same variable or same configuration variable in every environment because for those environments, those variables might be different. Let's take a look at the whole process. We have a source code and you build your source code. When you build your source code, that produces an artifact, and you take that artifact, and the same artifact can be deployed into multiple environments. Here we have three environments, so dev, test, and prod, and each environment will talk to different database instance. For example, dev environment talk to dev database, test environment talk to test database, and production environment talk to production database. So, but when you deploy the same artifact in multiple environments, you cannot use the same database connection URL. So in such scenarios, we have to use some library which is called .env in this case. So you have to inject different environment specific variables while building your code. So since we are still in the development phase, we can use .env library to run our Node.js REST API by injecting different environment variables, and also it is very easy to have all those specific variables in a separate file so that it can easily changed or it can easily maintainable. And let's get into implementation. So let's look at the code where we have all the environment variables. So one is port. So our application is running on port 3000. So that is one environment variable. And another is connection details, database connection details, which we have 5 variables here. Let's go ahead and look at the npm package.env. So first let's copy that install command and let's run this command in our app so that the package gets installed. Let's run the command. Since we might use this while building the application, let's get installed into dependencies. Now the package is installed. So after that, we have to create a .env file. So in this .env file, we have to put all our variables like port and the database connection details. So and the value of the port is 3000. Then let's go to dbconfig.js and copy all these variables and put it here. So make sure you place this file at the root of the project. So if you place this file at the root of the project, the .env library will detect automatically. You don't have to give the file path to that particular library. So we have one more variable, dialect. So let's copy the values. Okay, we have put all the values in .env files, and let's go back to our code and access these variables through process.env. Oh, before that, first we need to place this line in the very first index.js file. So we have to make sure we have to put this line at the top of the file so that all the all the other files will get these variables. So we place the line at the top of this file, and now let's console log what are all the variables that we have on that process.env object. So I'm going to run this application so that we can see all the variables on that particular object. Okay, let's run. So as you can see the whole object, and whatever the variables that are newly added to the .env file is getting appended to that particular object. By default, you have so many variables on that particular object, but whatever the files that you put in .env file, those values will get appended to that object. That's why we are actually seeing those values at the end. Now let's let's get the value from process.env, the port value. So in case if the port is not there in .env, we are taking the default port is 3000. So that's why that's our condition. So let's change the port so that we know we are getting this port from .env file. Yes, let's restart the application again so that we can see 4000 port instead of 3000. Yes. So now the Express server is running on port 4000, which is coming from .env library. And let's change these as well. Let's get these values through .env library instead of hard-coded. Let's copy the variable names. Let's copy all the variable names so that and again restart the application. Okay, we are reading all the values through .env library now, and let's restart the application. Make sure application is up and running. Yes, now the application is also working. We are getting all the values from .env file. So one more thing I would like to specify here, so that particular line require, it has to be at the top before all other files. Otherwise, you will get these errors. Right now, I just placed that file, that line at line number 8 after all the imported lines. So since it is placed at the specific location, we are not able to access .env values because this file is already imported before that particular line. So that's why it is very important to put that particular line .env require .env library, import the .env library at the top of your file in the index.js, so that all the imported files will get .env values. Now it is working fine again. Make sure you remember this line to put the line at the top, otherwise you end up debugging a lot. So let's go ahead and look at another simple change. So first of all, our file name should be .env. Otherwise, .env package doesn't detect if you change this name to any other name. For example, if I'm changing this name to .env file, now the application is not able to run. It's because the .env package doesn't detect any other file. Since the file name is different here, so we have a provision in .env package where you can pass the relative path of the file name. So if you can see the documentation, go to the section where it called options. The first one is path. So you can just pass the path. So here our .env file is at the same location, root location. So you can just pass / that file name. So with this option, with this configuration, the application will start working again. So let's change the path and save the file, and yep, the application is working fine again. So you can actually see all the variables, and you can actually see all the variables are appended to process.env object. So besides this option, there are other options as well, like debug and override. You can override from .env file, and also you can actually pass the object. Instead of .env file, you can actually pass the object. So this is very useful when there are scenarios where you have, based on the condition, if you want to pass or if you want to change the value of the object in the object, you can actually pass that object instead of file name. And so for now, let's change back to .env file. We don't need to name we don't need to name anything other than .env as of now. So let's change back and let's test the application as well. So that is how we externalize all our environment variables from the code. That way we can build and deploy this code into multiple environments so that we can achieve that build once, deploy anywhere. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.